Uh-oh. That means everybody's gonna know. Hey, I've been waiting for you guys. Welcome to rehearsal.
So you can pause your recording, Mace.
Oh, okay.
So you don't need to record the, if you don't want to record the,
Oh, well, some of this stuff is good. We just don't want to publish it. Where do I pause the recording at?
at the very
Right
bottom.
here versus pause recording?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting smarter. See? A, CB.
Going to be a promoter. You can't be both. You can't be. Very few people are top level promoters and top level players, but all of us who are in the game, we've had to basically see that moment of opportunity and think, which side of the edge do I want to be on? Did that moment, did that decision, did that question come to you at an early time in your career? Was it as clear as it was to maybe some of us in our own decision making?
I mean, I was just so in love with the game and fascinated by what it could become. And I didn't know exactly what the route was. I mean, I was traveling and playing, I mean, I was competing and sort of doing that thing. And, Ken Climo was on top of his game. And it's like, gee whiz, I mean, even if you follow him around and beat him every once in a while, or even if you beat him every time, you still wouldn't, you'd be scraping by just to survive. So it just, tour life really wasn't an option at that point. And the other part of it is, I mean, we were growing. I mean, the business, Harold's business there in Rock Hill was growing. And so the other thing that I learned early on was that when you're doing it, like as much as you love it, when you're doing it all day, every day, and then you immediately you break away as soon as you can and travel, and you get to a tournament and you get up early on a Saturday morning and you play around, and then you hurry to lunch, and then you hurry back for round two, and then you go out, and then you get up on Sunday and you go to the course, and then you hurry to lunch and you hurry back. Like doing that, it kind of got to be, I started asking myself, like, why are you doing this? Like, I mean, I remember going to tournaments. I remember a tournament in Ron Aldridge's tournament in Melbourne, Florida. And I had a little house that I'd rented, right by the beach. And I left the beach to go to the tournament, and I was playing the tournament. I was like, I kind of would like to be sitting on the beach right now, just having a break from it. You can't, as awesome as it is, you can't do it all the time. And so just the thoughts of balance and longevity, it just seemed to make sense. And the more that I looked at the tournament and what it could become, I mean, I wasn't just a few years in, and we were all of a sudden running. I mean, I was doing online retail at zonedriven.com, Zone Driven Sports, which I started early on. So we were doing these rock releases, like these CFR rock releases of today, where we're dropping 6, 7, 8,000 discs. That was unheard of. So we were doing that, running the USDGC, had qualifiers all year round, was running the team. And there was a moment where I knew like I needed to sort of narrow my focus a little bit. And honestly, the opportunity on the business side, especially with the event side, seemed bigger to me. Had I known I could have gotten $1 million a year over a 10-year contract, I might have stayed the course a bit longer. But it wasn't in the cards for that generation of players. And it wouldn't have been. Like, you just don't see the top players in the game from then. I mean, some of them are doing okay, but it's just not like not like the contracts we're seeing today. So it was never about the money. It was never even about selling discs, man. I just wanted to try to give back some fraction of what I felt like the game had given to me. And I wanted to see professional disc golf reach levels that I believed that I saw for it. And dude, I'm so stoked about the 24th USDGC. I mean, I'm as ready to go as I was for any of the others, because we're just now getting to the really good part, and we're doing things on a scale that's like, now this is what I had in mind. I just didn't know it was going to take me 2 decades to get there.
What a long, strange trip it's been, right?
Fact.
Well, so you know, you're talking about getting to that point. And one of the conversations that I remember that really had an impact on you, and it had an impact on me too, was you talked about meeting was it the CEO for Quicksilver? And he told you the story about not forgetting the people on the beach.
Yeah, and that was, you know, it was with Harold. We were actually staying at his parents' house out in, you know, in the where we're out there for a trade show. I think it was in Long Beach at the time, but we're staying at his family's house, and we went and had this beautiful breakfast, kind of overlooking the ocean, and you know, just had a really interesting conversation with this guy. And essentially, the point was their company's downfall was, and I mean, I want to say that they made a rally, but the damage had been done, you know, with the core community. But it's essentially, you know, you're either out there or you're not. And I mean, there's a zillion people that have probably heard me say that at one point or another. Like, you can't fake it. You know, you certainly can't fake it in the surfing community. I mean, you're either out there with a board and you're in the water, or you're sort of an outsider, you know, and disc golf is similar. But I mean, the point was, you know, you have to be out there. It has to be real. It has to be authentic. Or, you know, the disc golf community is not going to disown you. But, you know, I mean, if you're legit and you love it like they do, man, you're in. And what a beautiful family to have been part of, and, you know, still is. But that's why, I mean, I could have gone a lot of directions in disc golf and with Innova, but I knew that the path for me to be fulfilled had nothing to do with how many discs we could sell. I don't even look at it. You know, I mean, I never have. It's more about how many souls can we win? You know, it's like, how many people can we turn on? How many people can we reach? How many teachers can we teach? How many ambassadors can we support? So that they can, you know, change the whole disc golf landscape in their towns, or in their cities or their states. And it's one reason why we had a really big team. We still have probably the biggest team. You know, a lot of that was just, we wanted that really good geographical representation, because those people, think about somebody like Brian Schweberger in the Carolinas. I mean,
Yeah,
he didn't even have to travel. He didn't have to tour, even though he did for a while. But like, that dude is so freaking legit. He's influenced thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people, just being Brian, playing golf wherever he is, practice round monthly, A tier, B tier, C tier, E tier, D tier, whatever. It just doesn't matter. Like, so I wanted to help as many people like that as I could. I wanted them to find a way, and I knew that they would be difference makers in their area. And this was, you know, media wasn't for a lot of the years what it is now. Now you can reach people in other ways, but you know, for a portion of my time at least, it was
that's
boots
the
on
most
the ground.
effective route.
I mean, boots on the ground was the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
and
total sense.
there's no faking that smile of Schweberger's, that's for sure. And something like a smile or a laugh that's viral in the most positive and right way. And to have that force on your side, you know, that's one of the faces behind Innova, or behind that name at that place. Man, that's you can't buy a better ambassador, that's for sure.
And it's snowballed. I mean, you know, I got people like that all around the world. You know, I mean, they're all over the place. You know, I'm getting ready to go to Worlds. I'll flying in and out of Kansas City. You know, Pete Cashin comes to mind. You know, it's like just salt of the earth. You
How,
know,
baby?
guys like Marty Hapner. I mean, it just goes on and on. Like, you feel bad naming any name, because there's it's endless. You know, so, and just, I don't know.
Well,
I
and
mean,
that's the advantage. That's the advantage of where we're all three rooted in this. You know, the time frame we're all rooted in. You know, I mean, like, all of this happened while we were here, and that's pretty damn cool. You know, I mean, it's, and you know what's coming next. Who knows? I mean, it's just getting better and better.
yeah, well, it's a family, and I guess in terms of the championship week, you know, in October at Winthrop, it's, you know, I kind of still see it as a little bit of a family reunion. I mean, yes, it's a professional sporting event, you know, that's that really is doing everything within my power to push the envelope and to learn and to grow and to hopefully inspire other people in similar positions to, to shoot for the moon, and let's do this thing as well as we possibly can and do it together. But, bringing that big family together and just being together, it's, I hope that we don't lose sight of that too quickly. Now that there's a lot of commas and zeros and these contracts and these payouts and things like that, it's like, it's good. It's good that people are more comfortable and they're getting paid for being really good at what they do. But at the end of the day, just the bonds that you have with people are the things that, are truly lasting and, fulfilling. And, just that to me is where it's always been at.
Well, and that family aspect, I mean, sometimes the family that we choose is sometimes better than the family that we've been born into in some ways. But the strength of a really good family is always dependent on all of its parts. And you guys have always chosen, in my mind, some of the greatest people too. Your focus is on positive people who bring something, not just who's the hottest player who's throwing the furthest right now, but who best exemplifies our values and our core standards. And I think that shows that Innova's thinking from that real personal, familial kind of perspective. I don't know what the other companies are doing, and it doesn't really matter, but what matters is that you have a team that's a family out there.
I think the spirit is probably pretty similar with, across the manufacturers that are in the game now. I mean, we're still, we're run largely by disc golfers. So I mean, I would imagine at some point you're going to see a major sporting goods equipment manufacturer get really heavy into the golf disc business, and it'll just be selling widgets, and they will either be out there or they won't. But I think, certainly all the companies that have been around a minute, I mean, you're talking about good people. These companies have been founded by people that we've just watched come up through the ranks. And so, I don't get into the colors game too much. I mean, especially when it relates to other athletes. I mean, I support the person, and whatever they choose to throw. I mean, as long as it feels good in their hand and they're happy and they feel confident with it. If it's an Innova disc, that's great. If it's not, I'm not going to not root for you. I mean, it's just, maybe that's a little bit of the skating and, BMX kind of background where, hey man, you land the trick, hats off to you. And you see that in our social media, and I think others do this too, but we've been very intentional at congratulating the winners of these big events from other companies. I mean, that's deliberate. So, I like that we've maintained sort of that trueness to who we've always, who Dave and Tim and Harold and the original Innova founders set out to be. That spirit is still there.
In terms of the team, I know you'd said back in '98 you'd written the foundation document for setting the team in motion. Did you also start the celebrity ambassador team? Was that your initiative?
I mean, yeah, the ambassadors, and our celebrity ambassadors all sort of kind of grew from the same place. I mean, I don't remember who the original celebrity ambassador was. I'd have to think on that a little bit, but it just little by little, people started popping up that are like, okay, well, we'd like to support you in some way, but you're not really you play disc golf and are an influencer, but not necessarily going to be competing, and that's not going to be your focus. And that happens all the time, and it's coming more frequently. I mean, Bert Kreischer, the comedian, certainly been the rage all year and gotten a lot of attention. I mean, I just had a conversation over the weekend with Cam Richards, who's one of the top pro surfers, and his girlfriend, who was a model. I mean, they're influencers and they play disc golf all the time. And I was like, okay, well, let's try and figure something out, because, people like that you're just looking for those scenarios that can, they have the ability to reach an entirely different audience, and just share the good news of disc golf. So it was never really just about the high end pro or the promoter. It's, hey, you love disc golf. What what can we do? How can we help each other?
So I know I noticed the the Innova website that hasn't been updated. So Bert is officially one of the team members now.
I don't know if he's official or not. I mean, that's kind of handled by, Chris Brophy and our team at the factory store out west. I mean, he's gotten a lot of gear from, different companies, and, it's one of the things too, like the agreements are different. Just the nature of them, and sometimes with celebrities, a lack of agreement is even better. I mean, just a handshake and not having to navigate managers and management teams and attorneys and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's just like, hey, bro, how can we hook you up and do good things together? So, I mean, I don't know if he ever signed and made something official, with just us. I mean, it really doesn't, it's fine if he did. It really, just having a big personality like that who can go on Joe Rogan's podcast and go all over the world and basically just be authentic in his love for the game. Everybody, I mean, we win.
Yeah. Who have you, like, it just seems to me that Bert, at least on my threshold, on my horizon, he seems to have just popped up this year. Has he been trending for a while? Has he been on one of his
Yeah, that machine run stand up is, I think that's a couple 2 or 3 years old at least. You've seen that happen too.
In terms of his real, bug with disc golf, I think that's fairly, that's
Yeah, you
newer.
could be right about that.
In terms of him playing everywhere, like these guys, every stop, everywhere they go, I mean, they're playing almost every day. And, we've gone to, I don't know, a handful of locations and taken the disc golf experience to his show. So like we've had a disc golf fan fun zone,
Yeah.
outside, where all the comedians that were on his past tour would come out, or most of them would come out and play, and fans could play the course
Nice.
and interact with them. So, that's kind of how we've helped, but it's, I don't know, it's just, he's just a dude, man. I mean, he's people like that, if you just, if you treat them as though they're normal and not a gigantic celebrity, they're at ease, and you just naturally kind of find the thing, it's like, man, it would be cool if, well, hey, let's fill in the blank together and do that.
For sure.
a pretty big blank with Bert Kreischer, that's for sure. I just want to take it back. One thing that you and I talked about a little while ago, Jonathan, but maybe more people might find this of interest. Myself, we're all three of us are tournament directors. We've been running tournaments for a long time. Some of us very small tournaments, and one of us very big tournaments. But there's a real performative aspect to tournament direction. First of all, you're the one who gets up on the stage in front of people. They're looking at you. You've got to deliver the material. And so usually if somebody's going to add some pizzazz or jazz it up, they do it at the beginning of the awards ceremony. There might be an anthem played, or they get the mayor to come out and throw out the first disc or give a little speech. But in my limited experience, and again, I'm not global traveler all around everywhere, but your event in 2007, the USDGC, the closing ceremony, the awards ceremony, was one of the biggest mind blows that I've ever seen in my life. You had come, I think, Mace, you were the DJ and you were playing music.
I was host the awards, so
Okay, and then
so
at a
not so
cue,
much the DJ as much as, but I probably was doing that too then.
you were ready with the music at a cue, and at a certain
yeah.
moment, we all became aware of Jonathan, and I don't know, would you have like 15, 20 motorcycles in your pack coming up the road from way down across the lake, and we're all standing there in front of the shop, and it was one of the most perfect confluence of attention and detail. And you came, like, you can't fake that sound of a Harley revving. We could hear it, you could see it, and we could feel you approach. You came all the way around the pond, up the lake, up the hill, and then you walked in and you dumped the first place cash, which was $15,000 for first place, and you just dumped it on the awards table. Of course, Kenny buttoned up that whole scene perfectly by doing a backflip onto the pile of money. But in terms of pure theater, there's things that we need to do to make disc golf as equally interesting or more so for people outside of the playing field. And in terms of that, that performative aspect. That was this that should deserve. We should name an Oscar after that, to be honest. And
Yeah.
where did you come up with that? What was the genesis behind all that?
Just those were some of the early, the earliest moments of realizing that even if we're not quite there yet, this is going to be about entertainment. And I wanted to make sure that people left on the highest note possible. So, I mean, we've done fireworks at the award ceremony more years than not. We've dropped in a skydiver on that same little plot of land where where we rode in on the motorcycles. We obviously did the motorcycles. We've done color guards. We do the distance showcase, where Brian whips everybody into a frenzy and you watch these guys throw. It's the most exciting 30 minutes in disc golf, in my opinion. There just really isn't anything else like it. And so the idea is just entertain them. Like you left with that memory of the motorcycles, and it was like, we're in the memory making business. You want to be entertained. You want it to be, to stick with you, and you want to go tell people. And so, I tried different things. We eventually kind of settled into something that was a little bit more refined from an award standpoint. And then just go big with distance and go loud with distance and let that be the closer. So, we haven't had shenanigans in a while. There might be some shenanigans coming soon, maybe this year, maybe for the 25th anniversary next year. But if you're there, you'll see, and if you aren't, you'll read about it.
Right.
But again, it's just back to the entertainment, and that's where we are right now. We've had, I'm watching the Pro Tour have guys like Corey Wong show up and play. We had a band at the Shack the first year, and it was so good that we got shut down. Our very first year, I was like, that's right, we throw a party first year, we get shut down. But it's always been about that. We've had skate ramps, we've had all kinds of stuff, that we've just tried to entice other people to come out and just touch them in a different way. But I was riding a motorcycle then. I'd gotten to know, Rock Searle was one of the key guys that rode in with me.
Yeah.
But then
Greg Layton was in that group too.
Yeah. And so, I got to meet some guys from the local chapter of Rolling Thunder and got to know their story. And I even went to the Rolling Thunder a couple of years in DC when they all kind of, descend on the Capitol and kind of do the tour through the city. And just, that's an amazing experience. Just like riding a motorcycle with tens of thousands of people and just crying. And seeing people on overpasses waving the American flag and just, I was crying as I drove through and did this. And I wasn't even part of that. Like I didn't serve, but it touched my heart. And so I got to know these guys, and, I think that was a year where we were donating to Rolling Thunder. I was like, hey, we ought to do this. And so we kind of planned it out and got everybody that we could. It could have easily been a lot more bikes than that. There was some event going on that had a lot of people in their chapter out of town. But we were able to rally and get probably 15 or 20 or something like that. The funny part of all that was actually going into the bank and getting that much cash. And then, so I remember, because they didn't know. I told them, I was like, all right, well, this is how much I need to withdraw. And I was like, and that needs to be cash, and I need that to be in small bills because, we're going to dump it all over the place. And the little bank in Rock Hill's looking at me like, okay. And then, like, I wasn't thinking about security. Obviously, these my earlier days, I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't worried about it, dumping money all over the place. But I remember the Winthrop campus police officer that was there. We got to talking about what we were going to do right before we were going to do it. He's looking at me like, you're going to do what? And he freaked. He's like, oh my gosh, like, what if we get, so he went into full on cop mode and totally wigged out, thinking that we were going to get, bombarded and people were going to take the loot. But it wound up being a really, just in hindsight, probably worked out better than we even drew it up in the sand to begin with.
Oh man. Were they fives or were they ones? Do you remember?
I don't know. It was one or the other, but it was a
It was a backpack full of money.
Yeah,
for sure. It was a good bit of loot.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a bunch of money, so it was fun. It was cool.
I hope that didn't contribute to any of Kenny's or chronic back pain issues. Jumping onto that table like that.
Well, it's interesting. I felt bad for him. I mean, he's for somebody who was the fittest dude in the room. Like that was one of the reasons when Worlds felt like a marathon in the dead of summer every year. I mean, one of the reasons why he did so good was because he was so well conditioned.
Yeah.
So like that's just you're sort of reminded of how vulnerable we really are. Because I mean, this dude was lean and mean and could, and then just to see him have issues. And we talk about disc golf being a lifetime sport and all this, but and it is, I think for more people than not. But it's just been sad to kind of see him just get to a point where he can't enjoy it like he used to. I mean, because he was a baller, dude. I mean, how I can't tell you how fortunate I feel to have seen most of his career, and even been able to compete with him a little bit, not at his level, but to see him compete and to see him perform and to like go to these events as his manager and do that, and and to go through most of Paul's career doing the same, and a lot of others before that. Barry Schultz, don't leave out Barry, but like seeing all of their careers really kind of run the gamut.
Sure.
It's just been, it's just super amazing to have been able to see that from the inside and really know these guys, really know them and how they feel and what they're thinking, and to have conversations with them about what's going to drive you. Like when you've been to the mountaintop, when you've climbed Mount Everest 5 times, what's going to motivate you to do it a 6th? And it's just, it's different, guys, when they get to that level, it's just different. And it's not just the sheer need for money to survive that's driving them anymore. I mean, it's conditioning and, just hyper competitive nature.
Yeah, I mean, you running one of the world's largest events, you get to see that level of competition at its most hyper too. I mean, you get to see got people focus basically all year on these 4 days, and you've seen the biggest, best fields that have ever been put out in disc golf. And when you look at the names that passed through Winthrop University, those fields, it's everybody that matters in disc golf. And do you feel that the tournament has kept pace with how much the players are growing as an athletic body? Are you guys keeping pace and offering a course that's continuously challenging into its 3rd decade?
I sure hope so. I mean, I don't know that I could do much more to keep pace. I mean, I literally, especially this time of year, I mean, about that August 1st is when I flipped the switch. And, it's 8-10 hour days at least every day, and it's hard to turn off, and I don't really want to turn it off. Like I just want to keep going. And, the course is a unique part of it. I mean, there's a lot of great courses out there now. I mean, the thing that Winthrop has on its side is just the rich history, and all these majors. I mean, it's just so far out there in a league of its own, and it's the most viewed, course that's really ever been played. So, I want to. I mean, there are more scenic courses out there. I'm sure there are courses that are more fun. There are probably courses that are more challenging. There's all kinds of things, but the important thing that I think we need to consider in this day and age is a lot of those courses they might check the boxes for the tournament, but they don't necessarily check the boxes for the event. And I feel like Winthrop does check all of the boxes, or most of the critical boxes to run an event around the tournament. That spectators, thousands of them, can come in. They can pay, they can feel good about the amount that they paid, they can feel safe, they can leave with memories and an excitement about seeing their heroes and want to go play. So, I mean, I feel like we're leading the pace still. I mean, I'm glad to see what the Pro Tour is doing, what some of the majors are doing. I mean, there's a lot of, that was kind of the whole point. It was like, let's just dive in and go for it and test things and sort of figure it out. And you guys can borrow from it what you want, and we'll all get better. And that's really what has happened over time. So, you know, I mean, but there are, I'm sure, promoters out there who work as hard at it as I do, but I don't know of anyone who outworks me at it. You know, because it's just, and it's not just hours, right? I mean, it's efficient use of the time and of the network and building the blocks. It's like compounding interest. I mean, we're so
Absolutely.
far, like there's so much that we're able to build on. I mean, I've probably got a dozen teams of people working around this time of year, leading others in one certain area of this event. You know, and so it's like that takes time, you know, so that has worked to our advantage. And it's just hard to imagine that even if somebody worked 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the way leading up to their event, well, it's different because you know, we just have had so many years of people come through there that have experience. I mean, Brian's been there for every single one, you know, I mean, to have people like that will come from Texas every year and just give literally until the blisters are on your hands every single year, and can lead others who can now lead others who can now lead others. It's just doesn't make us better. It's just a different situation. I mean, that's just by staying at it and being persistent, it's enabled us to kind of get to where we are. And
Consistency and continuity.
I mean, I just keep going. And that's, you know, to think now that I can sit back and look at people get excited about this time of year. And they're just like, what do you want me to do? And it's just that our people are, as Harold's always said, you know, the people are the secret sauce. You know, I mean, the course is incredible and it always seems to deliver the drama, or way more often than not. You know, so like the course or hate it, it seems to always come down to the wire. And really create some dramatic finishes. But you know, our people make a difference, and you know, and it's not just the sheer number of volunteers; it's every key area on the course probably has somebody working on it or in it that has at least 15 years of experience at that time.
So many people with so many majors that haven't been to another one. You know, like think about that. There's probably 2/3 of the staff have 10 or 15 majors or more under their belts, and they haven't been to another one, or they haven't been to 5 others for sure. You know, in terms of all the people that, man, I mean, it's pretty amazing. It is a family reunion. There's no two ways about it, especially for like me. You know, I only get to see most of those folks once a year, see their kids grow in heads and shoulders increments, you know, every year, like your kids. And, you know, I mean, I've seen your kids a little bit more than every year, but, you know, some of them I haven't, you know, and it's one of those things. I always look forward to it.
Yep. Well, I sure appreciate all your, you know, I've told you a lot of times privately. Don't know that I've had too many opportunities to tell you publicly, but you know, I mean, we wouldn't be where we are had you not been a part of this, especially in those early years. I mean, we were we were a proud few at
Well, it was
one
like
point.
me and you and like 7 other people.
You know, so it just those were the difference makers that really sort of cemented what we knew we could become, and you know, and here we are. So again, thank you for your continued role and all of that over the years, and all the other people like you and like us that, you know, contribute not just to our event, but for all the tournaments of all tiers and calibers all around the world. I mean, somebody's got to do that part of it.
Sure.
You
Well,
know, so-
and that's a narrower wedge of the group by far, but you know, that's very important. And I really enjoy that role too. You know, I'm not sure how much more of it I'm going to take back on, but you know, obviously we are stepping back into the water with Mace Man, and so that's been something too that I got to figure out. Okay, well, how many events do we want to get involved in? I mean, obviously, I don't want to. I want to continue to be involved on this event. You know, as long as I'm still breathing, and you know, and just like, you know, you mentioned all those guys from like '97. You know, like you're just started working for Innova, and that whole entire roster, like Steve Lambert, and Andy and Neil and Harold and and then John David, and then all these other people like that, like to have come up under that umbrella. I like I said, I know about that from maybe a 2 week to a 4 week a year sort of an experience. I can only just imagine that influence year round. You know, it's just amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, this is the sport of disc golf is still very loose and familiar in that there's no institution. You can't send to the Juilliard at disc golf. You just have to be lucky to come up in the game in an area where there's some old school players and especially some good, not just good players, but good people. And like when you're just going through those names, that's just, I'm fortunate here to, I played my first ever tournament round with Elaine King, and I feel extremely fortunate to have had that as an opportunity. But you know, you think about some of there's a lot of people that are coming into the game now who have no idea who anyone was beforehand, and
And where all that came
benefit,
from.
where it all came from. That gives you that rich understanding of the history of this, because it really is a rich cultural legacy that we have, primarily thanks to the individual efforts of everybody, specifically someone like yourself, Jonathan. But you know, we're all here chipping in to help create a more lasting monument for the future, and maybe generations out, they're still throwing plastic frisbees in 100 years. They, you know, it might be the Mace Man Invitational that they get to go to or something. You know, who
You
knows
never
what
know.
we're-
I'm not sure I'm going to be around for 100 more years.
No, but your
In fact, I'm
memorial might
relatively
be.
certain that I won't be.
But I mean, it is a pretty unique situation for us to be in, to be able to bring positivity and light to people's lives, to be a real force of positive change in someone's life through a circular toy. Like how awesome is that? Yeah, we can build bridges and make better connections because of a toy. That's what it comes down to. You know?
It's pretty amazing how that grabs you. And, you know, like you mentioned earlier, Jonathan, when you were talking, like the place that I'm sitting in my parents' basement right now because I'm home for a visit. And the place where we used to go to see rock shows, it was called Kansas Coliseum. And it was just north of Wichita. And I don't know, probably held 15,000 people. It was a good sized arena. It wasn't quite as big as some of the ones now, but there's 2 entries, so there's 2 exits. And I used to never go to a show there without a frisbee because there was no sense in waiting in line. I mean, you're going to be like as happy as you've been all week. Why not stay in the parking lot, have another beer or 2 and play catch for an hour and let that line just go down, you know? And so like that was one of my first places where I really, really remember being hooked on playing catch and throwing the frisbee as like an event, going to an event, and we're going to play catch with the frisbee while we're there, you know? And obviously that was long before disc golf for me. But you know, but we were also using that frisbee in the neighborhood back in those days. And we were picking our own holes and playing frisbee golf, you know, and I'm sure that everybody's got those stories as well. But it's just pretty amazing how such a simple toy, widget, whatever you want to call it, has drawn all of us together in such a great way, you know?
Yep.
And
And
continues to.
for pennies a class too, when you think about how relatively inexpensive it is, you know, vis-a-vis the joy units that it produces. I defy you to come up with something that's even more cost effective and produces this much amount of pure, unadulterated joy. I mean, when you see a group of kids in the schoolyard and they're having fun, whatever, and then somebody pulls out a frisbee, it's like volume level goes even louder. Now they get to throw stuff. This is awesome. Thankfully, those ones aren't too sharp. The frisbees or the kids.
That's pretty amazing. I didn't realize, I mean, I knew Neil was your friend from forever, but I didn't realize that that he got you in over there and got you playing, gave you the first, or turned you on to your first disc, and subsequently you went and bought one. That's pretty cool. That's really I've been thinking about him lately.
Yep, he was a good dude. But yeah, that was kind of where where it all began, and it's just interesting. It's an interesting story just for our little world that everybody that lived under that roof at the time has gone on to I think it was
That's
I think it
crazy.
was Ryan. Ryan was there first. He was tending bar in Charlotte. I'm like, dude, come on, you gotta come do this. And so I got him in there. I believe Neil was next, and it was Neil. Neil was my right hand dude with Zone Driven and all those early rock releases when nobody
Oh,
else.
yeah. And the
So
sticker with the
yeah,
fighter and all
and
that.
then Boomer, David Shope, who's our sales manager in Rock Hill now. I mean, he came after that, but I mean, all those guys were,
I remember when he came. I was actually that was after I started with it. That was after the USDGC started. Those other guys were there before. Like that's part of the skeleton. Even Andy Green. Like that was like my first year was the last year in Trexler. And I remember seeing those guys over there the one time I went over there. And then, oh, we'll never outgrow this place on Commerce. Oh,
it was Jennifer Lewis, Steve Lambert, then Russell Schwartz, and I came just a few months after Russell, and to start '97, and Andy was in probably the first half of the year. I'm thinking he probably maybe he finished out the school year. He was a cafeteria manager at Quail Hollow Middle School in Charlotte, and
oh,
he
wow.
probably finished the year and got to summer break. And I was like, should get out of the cafeteria and come do this. And I mean, Andy's, there's, I
Awesome.
never have a better friend or coworker. I mean, it's just to see him be so steady over all these years. I mean, it's just like, to have Andy and Harold to work with every day. I mean, come on. It just it doesn't hardly, and there's like, and then just, I can go on just about the people who work there that I've had a chance to work with, but those two in particular, just their demeanor, and their thoughtfulness and their patience and their kindness and their passion for disc golf. It's like, it's just, that's why I've felt rich this whole time. I mean, rich in all the ways that matter.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Well, you're a lucky man, but you've made everyone else around you better for it as well. You've made the sport much better. You've made the USDGC the thing that it is. We're extremely excited to think about the 24th anniversary coming up in October. Next year, the 25th. We hope we can have you come back on the show before this year's USDGC, maybe talk about a few spicy little details you want to talk about, but we
Like
can't thank you enough for
the
we
Tuesday
can't thank you
before.
enough.
Let's schedule it now.
All right, you got that. Lock them in. Okay, thank you. Yes, my assistant is working on it. But Jonathan, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time and being so gracious with your time and with your responses with us. And hopefully, we've been able to tell a few of the important stories that disc golfers need to hear when they're thinking about the history of the sport.
Yeah, it's been fun. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate the little goose shout out there at the beginning of the intro. They, a matter of fact, just took the stage in Dillon, Colorado. So I got the stream going over here. So
Oh,
I have 3 nights of goose. Tonight's the first one, and then Thursday night is their first ever Red Rocks show, which is sold out. And
of course.
fun fact, Paul Berge is there with his entire family. He's never seen goose, but he's going to get his first taste of goose at Red Rocks.
Oh,
So talk about. So I've been trying to turn people on to these guys since I discovered them in 2019. But yeah, stoked to to see them.
Have you been to Red Rocks yet?
I have not. It's a
Dude.
bucket list thing, but I've never been there.
Dude, like, all right, so look at the schedule beginning of the year next year and you pick it and I'll go with you. If I can pull it off, because it's, man, I mean, like, I hear that the Gorges is good, and I'm hopefully maybe going to get that in next year in Bend, Oregon. But yeah, man, the Red Rocks man, there ain't nothing like that.
Right on. Well, thanks again. I hope you guys have a great night. We'll hop on another time before championship and talk a little more about what we're cooking up, and be safe. We'll see you soon.
Thank
Right
you.
on, man.
And please give our best to everyone there and the best to your family as well.
Yeah,
Will do.
definitely. Tell the boys I said hi, and Laurie as well. I talked to
Will
your
do.
mom yesterday, so you don't have to tell her.
Right on. Well, she thinks the world of you. I appreciate you keeping in touch.
Yeah, no problem, dude. All right, we'll talk soon.
All right. See you.
See you,
All right, see ya.
Jonathan.
Bye.
So, B,
right.
should we stop the recording?
Yes.
All right, so part of that was